What's going on, everybody? It's Sean, joined by my wife Gina. As today in Reactions to the Classic, we look at Queen's 5th studio album, A Day at the Races. Well, Gina, you and our son Trey have done the previous 4 albums, so this is my first time joining you guys. And if it's your first time stopping by the channel, we want to thank you so much. We review some of the most classic albums of all time, also rank songs, albums, and artists, and every once in a while throw a live stream in there. So if that sounds like something you would enjoy, please hit that big red subscribe button. Also below, we have our links to our Facebook group and also Patreon, where you can help us out for $1 a month. All that to say, Gina, let's jump into this thing. I already mentioned it's their 5th studio album. It was released in December of 1976 by EMI in the UK and by Electra in the US. It went to #1 in the UK, #5 in the US. The first self-produced album by Queen, and it shares some similarities with the previous album, A Night at the Opera, in that they're both named after Marx Brothers movies. They have similar artwork, and they're both very eclectic albums. Well, let's jump right into this thing with the opening track, Tie Your Mother Down.
I do like this song. It was written by May in early 1968. He was actually working on his PhD in astronomy. He wrote it on Spanish guitar and thought he'd change the title and chorus later on, but when he brought it to the band, Mercury liked the original and it was kept the way it was written.
Well, this starts out with a 1:23 instrumental, which is just banging. You know you're in for a heck of a ride. The guitar, as usual on Queen tracks, is spot on. The lyrics are about the guy is basically telling the girl, let's get your mom and also your dad out of the way.
And your brother.
And your brother, so we can hook up. So, you know, May's maybe urging her to do some things she probably shouldn't.
Yeah, I get the impression probably her parents don't really like him or maybe don't trust them together. So he's kind of encouraging her to get the whole family out of the way so they can have some bonding time.
I've never done such a thing, but that takes us to our second track, which just reminded me so much of every time you walk into a room, You Take My Breath Away.
This one was written by Mercury, and actually all the vocals, including the backing, are Mercury as well. I like this song. I loved the simplicity of the piano and the vocals. It just had such a simple feel to it, and like a lot of Queen is like they do amazing things, but sometimes to me it feels like it's a lot.
It's heavily produced, yeah.
And this was just very simple. Essentially, he can't live without this woman.
Interesting on the instrumentation. It starts out with a 1:12 instrumentation here. So the first 2 tracks go over a minute without the vocals coming in. So that was a part that I enjoyed. I thought this was a really good song, and that takes us to Long Away.
Ooh, this was my favorite.
It was my favorite as well. You're stealing my thunder here.
I never heard this song before, but this is one that I listened to on repeat as I was listening to each of the tracks. I kept going back to this one over and over again. This one was written and sung by May.
Yeah, and Taylor actually comes in and sings the highest parts of the song. And a little bit of Queen trivia. This is the only single ever released during Mercury's lifetime that didn't have him on lead vocals. And the song really has a sad tone, describing that for every star in heaven, there's a sad soul here today. None of the members of Queen ever talked about what this song is really about. It's probably about someone who has passed away. Both the vocals and the instrumentation I think is fantastic on here. Even though Mercury's not on vocals, this is also my favorite vocal performance as well as my favorite song on here. Next up's a Millionaire Waltz. Is written by Mercury about John Reid, who was Queen and Elton John's manager at the time. It's another multi-key, multi-meter song like Bohemian Rhapsody, using abrupt changes, including May doing multi-track guitar choirs. It's also notable for John Deacon's lead bass. First 2 minutes of the song, it's just Deacon on bass and Freddie on piano. And the basic premise of the song is he feels like a millionaire whenever he's with her, and I've known how that's felt for the last 25 years.
Aww. Well, I hope you'll never know how it feels, really. She left him and he wants her to come back, so we can avoid that part of it.
Hopefully she's not trying to tell me something here.
No. It has a very similar feel to Love of My Life from A Night at the Opera. Which I really enjoyed that song as well. One of the things I did like about this was that upbeat piano at the beginning.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of this song. It's my second least favorite song on here. I know it's very popular among some people, but that takes us into a track I really do like, and that is You and I.
This was written by Deacon. It's mainly piano driven and features Deacon on acoustic guitar. He wants to live in the moment and tells her that they have to be together at the moment, but he's not really sure what the future holds. I enjoyed this one a lot. It was one of my favorites on the album.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting lyrically just to be like, I have to be with you now, but I mean, I don't know down the road. I'm not really going to commit to this, but
we'll see. We're going to play it by ear and see how it goes.
Exactly. Once again, the electric guitar stands out on this. The instrumentation with Queen, as you mentioned at first, sometimes it can be overdone. Some, like I think it was on the Millionaire Waltz. I think they were trying to create some sort of grand thing like Bohemian that they really didn't need to. But on this song, it's just the perfect amount and one of my favorites.
Next up, we have Somebody to Love. This is one of the two that I'd actually heard previously. It's one of their more popular ones, I would say.
Yeah, I agree. It's the only one I knew off this album. It went to number 2 in the UK, 13 in the US, and it has a definite Bohemian Rhapsody. They didn't even try to hide it on this one with the huge choir-type sound in here. Except for this one sounds like a...
gospel.
Yes, a gospel choir. And the way they did, they took Mercury, May, and Taylor, and they went in a studio, made it so they double-tracked, triple-tracked, all the way up to sounding like the three of them were 100 different voices on here. So that was a really cool part.
Yeah, I like that a lot.
I like this song. I think the instrumentation stands out, and it's supposed to. It's a very complicated arrangement. It's my second favorite song on here.
Ultimately, he's questioning the lack of love in his life, and the part, I guess, that God plays, like he's begging, essentially, give me somebody to love. I need someone to love.
He almost gives the impression that if he doesn't find that person to love, he kind of doubts the existence of God. Well, next up is White Man, which was written by May about the plight of Native Americans when the European immigrants came to America, which is quite an odd thing for a British man, I thought, in the 1970s to write about.
Yeah, it was from the viewpoint of the Native Americans and how essentially they're oppressed by the white people. It is known as one of Queen's heaviest works.
It is. It's 5 minutes long. First minute is just Mercury and the drums. Yeah, it is just a pounding. Mercury is basically very powerful in this, almost shouting, white man, white man.
And in calling out the hypocrisy of the Christian, you know, white men are supposedly, you're following this Christian theology and you come in here and you start war and there's bloodshed and just how hypocritical it all is.
Yeah, and I found that to be very poignant because he's writing this in the 1970s about the early 1700s, and here we are at almost the end of 2019, and boy, we got a lot of that hypocritical Christian speak towards races and the plight of the poor today as well, so very much stands up to the test of time.
All right, next up we have Good Old Fashioned Lover Boy, and this one I know that you weren't a huge fan of.
That's my least favorite song on here.
I didn't hate it. I thought it was fine. It was probably one of the lower ones for me, but essentially this is about Freddie's romantic relationship with David Menz.
Freddie wrote it. He sings the chorus with Mike Stone. It's less than 3 minutes long. I think they try to pack a lot into this song. As you mentioned already, you gave it away. It's my least favorite song on here. Well, next up is Drowse, written and sung by Taylor, and I think that gives this the least Queen sounding song on this album, and it's about the narrator talking about being stuck between adolescence and middle age. You know, when we're younger, you don't have to worry about too many things. Your whole life's in front of you and you're going to accomplish this and that. And then once you reach our age, you have this tendency to look back at your life and wonder what could have been. And if you're wasting your time always going, man, what could have been, you're not enjoying the time that is right now.
Yeah, so this was largely about dreams unfulfilled. And one of the parts of the song that really stuck with me was he never wanted to be the boy next door, but essentially that's what he ended up being at the end of his life. Looking back, I'm just talking about how fleeting it all was, the dreams that he had, I guess, thinking you have enough time to accomplish these things, and then boom, life happens and here you are years down the road and you never really did the things that you were hoping that you would do.
Yeah, and I don't think there's anything wrong with ending up being the boy next door, leading what most people call an average life, but you just recently had a birthday, and oftentimes we reflect on those things as we get to a certain age of going, man, I don't know if I'm really where I'm supposed to be in life, and I think this was what it was about. But I think the overarching message that was fantastic is don't worry about that because you can't change what
happened. Live in the past.
Yeah, I mean, just live right now and enjoy this moment because you still got time ahead of you.
All right, in wrapping up the album, I'm going to try to say it the best I can.
She's better at it than I am.
It's in Japanese, TORRIATTE. Please correct me in the comments if I'm wrong.
Oh, they will. Don't worry.
It means let us cling together. I actually really like this song.
I think it's good. It was written by May. They took the time to learn and record 2 different choruses in Japanese. It was released as a single in Japan, as if you put that time in, it well should be. It only went to number 49, which was probably disappointing after putting all that time in. An interesting way not only to end this album, but a lot of people look at this album and the previous album, A Night at the Opera, as kind of a 2-album journey. Very eclectic, as we mentioned in the beginning. So to end it with 2 choruses in Japanese seems appropriate. And what is this one about?
Essentially, what I get out of it is we'll always be together even if we're not.
But we're going to be, right?
Well, you and I better
Oh,
be.
she means the song. I'm a little worried here. I thought this didn't turn out too well.
Let us always cling together.
Yes, let's. Well, let's get to our favorite tracks. For me, it's Somebody to Love, it's Drowse, and my favorite on here, Long Away. What about you?
Yes, my favorite, Long Away, Somebody to Love. I think you stole those from me. And then You Take My Breath Away was also one that I enjoyed.
Because it reminded you of me. I
Yes,
appreciate that.
of
That's going to get us into our overall score. As I mentioned in the beginning, this is my first foray into a Queen review. You've done the previous 4 albums. For me, I really enjoyed it. It takes a while for Queen to grow on me. I told you after I listened to it the first time, I didn't really like it. For me, it's going to be an 8.0. I don't think there's a bad track on here. There's a couple I don't care for too much, but none of them are bad, so I'll be at an 8.0. What about you?
I actually liked it better than he did. I'm going to give it an 8.75. I liked pretty much everything. And the more I listened to it, the more I liked it. So I think it's solid 8.75.
Well, Gina, thanks a lot for joining me here. We're going to be back with further Queen albums. If you liked what you saw here, hit that big red subscribe button. And until next time, we will see you.